करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Hari Om all and good evening. On this auspicious occasion of Lakshmi Puja, we invoke the blessings of Mother Lakshmi, not just for our external wealth, but for gaining the qualities of inner wealth also. Of course, Lakshmi Puja is celebrated on different days. It is part of Navaratri. In Bengal, the Poornami day, that is today after the Navaratri, is also a particular Lakshmi Puja. And in majority of North India, Deepavali day is celebrated as Lakshmi Puja. So there's a lot of emphasis on worship of Lakshmi, which is not just, again I emphasize, not just with reference to the external wealth alone. Everything that is connected to inner wealth, beauty, auspiciousness, prosperity, abundance, inside and outside, is always connected to Goddess Lakshmi. So we invoke blessings of Goddess Lakshmi and enter the subject. The topic for the day is be a witness. Before we get into the term witness, or there is a better Sanskrit term called Sakshi, the English equivalent of that or a similar term is objectivity. We would have seen this term used much often, and even during the Upanishad lectures we have used this term, objectivity. This objectivity term comes from the term object. So this is a basic chart about what life is. Life is defined as flow of experience. In Sanskrit it is called as Anubhava Dhara. Dhara means flow. Anubhava means experience. So Anubhava Dhara means a continuous flow of experience. So if we want to analyze as to what is the unit of experience, then we see that suppose if there is experience now here in the classroom, then there is experience for you in dining room, then there is experience for you in washroom or bedroom, sleep, and then you get up. So there is a series of experiences, and this flow of experience actually defines your life. If the experiences are good, you say the life is good. If the experiences are boring, then you say the life is boring. So if you want to have analysis of life, you have to break it down to unit. The unit is experience. So the next question arises as to what is experience. Experience is essentially coming together of two factors. One is called as the subject and another is called as the object. Subject and object are the two essential components of any experience. Subject refers to the individual, you, me, everybody who experiences. He is the experiencer. And the object refers to the world. Object refers to what you experience. It's called as the experienced, you can say. So you and the object coming together, there is a bondage or relationship formed, that is called as an experience. When you eat an apple, the apple is the object. You as the eater, the individual as the eater is the experiencer. Similarly, when you watch a movie, that's an experience. You are the seer or watcher, and the movie is the object. Like that, every experience has these two components. Even emotional and intellectual experiences also. When you are angry at somebody, that's an experience. The other person who you are angry at, that is the object. You are the feeler, the subject. Similarly, when you think, even when you meditate, that is an experience. We are throwing certain thoughts here, that is the object for you. When you think about it with your intellect, that is an experience. So experience is essentially coming together of subject and object. Now, the subject and object are different, and the subject is the experiencer, is the actual fact. But in practical reality, what happens is that since we lack this objectivity, the subject tends to get involved with the object. So the opposite of objectivity is very easy for us to understand, not just in terms of concept, because we practice it also. The practice is that the subject gets involved with the object. It is called as involvement. Involvement is the opposite of objectivity. Before that, just to complete this chart, therefore the study of the world is carried out by the scientists. They are objective scientists. They study wealth, they study people, they study nature, and this is also required that they are objective scientists. Another set of people study the subject, the individual. They are the subjective scientists. The subjective scientists are the rishis, and the subject is called as Vedanta. So this completes the chart about what is Vedanta and how it is connected to science, and essentially it is about experience. So involvement is the opposite of objectivity. Involvement is when mind means the participating subject here, it gets involved or gets entangled itself with the object. So that is when we say you lose your objectivity. What is interesting is this mind, intellect, all these components, it is called in Sanskrit as antakarana. The four antakarana are mano, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. So mind is essentially a karana. Karana means instrument. Instrument means mind has to be operated by somebody else. That is what instrument. See, you have a key. Key is an instrument. That means key cannot operate by itself. A musical instrument cannot operate by itself. Somebody plays the musical instrument. So it is an instrument in the hands of somebody. So there is a very subtle message when they say antakarana, that mind must be your instrument. But what happens practically is that the mind takes over and it operates by itself. When it operates by itself, it gets involved with the object, and the subject loses itself into the object, which is what we call as involvement. So we lose objectivity. It is obviously, it is an aspect of ego only. So involvement is the opposite of objectivity. This involvement in Sanskrit, we can understand these two terms that which is very common in Vedanta, known as the Kartrutva Bhavana and Bhoktrutva Bhavana. In Atma Bodha and various places it comes. Kartrutva Bhavana means a sense of doership. I am the doer. I am the karta. This is called as Kartrutva Bhavana. So that means the ego gets involved in the action. Involvement means the mind can tend to get involved in any experience. And broadly our experiences are with reference to what is absorption in terms of enjoyment at the level of senses, at the level of mind, at the level of intellect, and involvement in terms of action. So we tend to get involved in our relationship, we tend to get involved in our sensual perceptions, we tend to get involved in our emotional transactions, we tend to get involved in our actions. So generally they are all clubbed under two categories. Both are essentially manifestation of ego. One is called as the Kartrutva Bhavana and another is called as the Bhoktrutva Bhavana. Kartrutva Bhavana means I am the doer. The ego claims that I am the doer. Bhoktrutva Bhavana means I am the enjoyer. I am the enjoyer in the sense of I am the experiencer. Since every experience is aimed towards my enjoyment, Bhoktrutva Bhavana is equivalent to I am experiencer or I am the enjoyer. When it comes to action, there are three appendages to action. So what is actually practicing renunciation in action, in terms of objectivity in action? Swamiji's one of the fabulous quotes is that the beauty and grandeur is practicing renunciation in action, not renunciation of action. It is related to objectivity. We'll see that later when we come to the term Sakshi. So there are mainly these three appendages to action. Action is done in the present, and every action has to be preceded by a desire which comes from the past. So the desire belongs to the past. All of us have collected various desires, maybe from various janmas also, we do not know. There is a stock of desires that is there, and that is what is actually pushing us towards the action. If I have business tendencies and business desires, my action will be doing business. If I have tendency towards studying scriptures or Vedanta, and that will push me into those actions. If my tendency is to sing or something, my action will be oriented towards music, singing. So there's a desire from the past which makes you do the action in the present, and every action will yield a fruit, and that fruit belongs to the future. Say for example, if there is a desire to talk, that is from the past, that I am talking in the present could be the action. Fruit of the action could be anything, that I can gain name, I can gain following, or it could be that somebody can say this is a worst lecture, or it's a waste of time. All that is actually the result of the action. What is accruing out of action is the result of the action. So when I do business, profit is fruit, or power, or some other thing that is related to what is I am expecting out of business is the fruit. So the fruit belongs to the future. When we tend to act, the mind, when it gets involved in the action, what happens is that it gets caught up in the appendages of action with reference to all periods of time. Obviously, the toughest of that is the kartritva bhavana, which is the doership of the action in the present. Actually, I am doing this action. This thought is there in the back of the mind, even as we talk about egolessness also. Like that it is. That is the power of ego. So even as we perform any action, this ego is there, that I am the small self. Ego means the small self, the jiva, the individual, the body mind component which you arrogate to yourself. That thought, that ego, that is what claims that I do the action. And then obviously there is so much of involvement of the past desires, which is fate accomplished. We cannot do anything about it. And more anxious is about the fruit of the future. So if we want to extricate ourselves out of this, the first or the easiest among this to practice is to disassociate ourselves from the fruit of the action. Whether you like it or not, the fruit is anyway going to come. Why get involved in the fruit while acting? So involvement is at the mental level. And when you get involved in the fruit of the action, when your concentration goes into the fruit, you are not going to perform the action also properly, and you are not going to get the desired fruit also. But it is the tendency of the mind to get involved in the fruit of action. Not only that, if you take further extension of that, involvement in the enjoyment of fruit of action. So at least we have to curtail the mind to that extent that it is not for me, the fruit is for the Lord. Like that it is. Okay. And the other main involvement, as I said, is I am doing this action. In both these cases, it is centered around me, I, who am doing the action, and what is for me, which is the fruit of the action. As I said, we cannot disassociate from the past, but if we are able to approach the action properly in the present, eventually we will be able to get out of the past. At the present, when the past is so effective and it is pushing you into action, there is no point resisting it. But when you get too much involved because of just doing the action from the past, you are going to leave residue of that action, and you are going to create further and further desire about the further and further vasanas about the same thing, and your cycle of action will continue. So Vedanta says, from a direct perspective of practicing this knowledge, what is the ultimate advice of Vedanta? So it says that when you practice assertion and negation, that you say that I am not this body, mind and intellect, I am the self, I am the supreme self. That is a very high level of practice. That is meant for introverts. That's meant for a renunciate who is already at a certain level of practice. As far as we are concerned, most of us are at the level of the action. Most of us are having lot of desires and we are extroverts. We have to perform our actions and duties in the world. Only then, if we do it properly, sometime we will elevate ourselves to the level of renunciation. So therefore, while doing this, if we are able to say that this fruit does not belong to me, or I am not the karta, that is the practice. The effect of both is the same, but for our level, to do it at the action level is easier, and it is important to begin there. If you want to make it further simplified, Vedanta says that negation is somewhat understandable and it is somewhat easy, but assertion of the self is very difficult because we do not know what that self is. We do not know what that supreme power or what it is. So in order to hold on to that and assert that is very difficult. So if you are able to disassociate yourself from the fruit and disassociate yourself from the doing of the action by putting the onus upon somebody else, that is much more practical. So every action needs to have a karta, right? That is what we have studied when we studied the 5 components of action. There is a karta, and every action has to have all the 5 components. The stupidity is that we forget all the other 4 components and hold on to this component of karta and say, I am the doer, I am the doer. That is where the notion of kartrutva bhavana comes. Now what Vedanta says is transfer your kartrutva bhavana from yourself to somebody else. And who is that somebody else? That somebody who has to do the action has to be a conscious entity. If it is not the individual, it has to be the Supreme Self only. And this is not wrong, this is correct. Because whatever you do, is it not that there is a supreme power that it makes it all function in a way that it is functioning? A person is traveling and sitting on the horse and he is carrying a big bundle of grass and he thinks that it will be very heavy for the horse to carry both, so I will keep the grass on my head. Like that if he keeps, but he is sitting on the horse only. How stupid it is. So he is thinking that he is carrying the horse, unnecessarily he is carrying, because the horse is anyway carrying both. And the horse is not feeling any pressure, it is coolly carrying and going. Exactly like that. When every work is getting done by that Supreme Self, why do you have to take that burden upon yourself and say that I am doing it? With or without you, all this is going to be done. In fact, Krishna makes this powerful statement in Gita a couple of times. Mayaivaite nihata purvameva nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. Verse 33, chapter 11, famous verse. He says, you be only an instrument, Arjuna. Mayaivaite nihata purvameva. I have finished them all already. You be an instrument, that's all. Why don't you be just an instrument? But you claim that I am the doer. So therefore, instead of saying that I am the karta, you say that he is the karta. He is the karta. He is doing the actions. So once you say this, actually there is a relief in you. And then what about fruit? Fruit, whenever, whatever it comes, let it accrue and come to you. How do you disassociate yourself from the fruit? You only say, this is his leela. If he wants to give such and such profit and wants to keep me in opulence, that is also his will. If he wants to give loss out of this and make me understand certain things, that is also his will. If he wants to give me certain honor, that is his will. If he wants to give me dishonor, that is also his will. Let me just do what is to be done to the best of my ability and leave the fruits unto him, and let me treat this as his leela. The moment you say that, we are trying to practice objectivity at the level of action. So kartrutva bhavana is the sense of doership where the mind or the ego gets involved, and that can be sorted out, or that can be slowly crossed over by placing the onus upon the infinity. That's all it is. And what we have to remember is, the best of the actions come from you only when you don't claim that kartrutva bhavana. Even unconsciously you have experienced it. When the artist becomes the art, when he pours himself out into the art, he forgets that he is the doer, and that is the time the best of the art comes. The singer, when he becomes the music itself, the song itself, he forgets even the accompaniments, he forgets the audience. He is just completely absorbed in that music, where his little self is absent. That is the time best music comes. But this ego comes and puts a signature later. I am the singer, something like that. So think about your own experience. This is the truth. So therefore, if you want to even do the best of the actions, you have to consciously take this thought out. So with reference to kartrutva bhavana, this is the way of practicing objectivity. What is objectivity at the practical level is intellect pulling the mind and viewing it from a distance. That's all it is. As we said, the mind tends to get involved in the experience. When the mind gets involved in the experience, it gets entangled with it. So it goes through the ups and downs of it, it gets emotional about it, and it gets all the affectations out of it. If the intellect is able to just pull the mind, as just to say 3 steps back, and you are able to hold that mind in its place and then go through the experience, then you are said to be practicing objectivity little by little. It is, why does the mind tend to get involved, is that it is so caught up in that experience that it tends to find the pleasure out of it and tends to get involved in it completely. But if you have an overall picture, the involvement actually kills the pleasure. We don't enjoy actually when there is involvement. And the opposite is true. Detachment or objectivity is the pleasure. Swamiji says this objectivity is a pleasure is applicable at every level. Even if you want to enjoy eating a chocolate, you need objectivity. If you want to enjoy a movie, you need objectivity. See, when a child is given a chocolate, it tends to open the wrapper and bite the chocolate, and within half a minute the whole chocolate is finished. And yes, that you cannot deny that's a pleasure, but that's a pleasure that's short-lived and that's there. But to keep the chocolate by the side of your mouth and slowly allow the chocolate to melt into your system, that requires strength, that requires objectivity. So to that extent, only when the mind is available for that, you will be able to do it, and you must have at least tasted this higher pleasure also for you to do. Similarly, in a movie, even when you watch the movie, you watch it with definitely full passion. When you go to a Eden Gardens match or a Chepak or any stadium that you go to watch a cricket match, there you cannot sit and meditate and say I am the Brahman or something like that. You have to participate in the match, you dance there or you shout there or you cheer for the team there. That is all part and parcel of the enjoyment there. But what is the objectivity in practicing that? Or what is the test of objectivity in practicing that? It is that after the match is over, whatever be the result, your team won or lost, you jump with joy and sing with sorrow, all that is there. How far has it really got into your mind and get you affected? Suppose if India has lost the match and next day you are not able to even, you are carrying that and you are not able to concentrate even on the normal work that you need to do, then there is something deeply involved in your experience. Even if the tension goes in last few hours, this many runs and this many wickets, what is the palpitation that you feel? How much that will sort of indicate what that involvement is. But at that point of time, I am saying you just be yourself and enjoy it. Again, don't practice Vedanta sitting in a cricket match or when you are dealing with your subordinates in your office or boss in your office. That is not the time to bring out all these things. All the objectivity and other thing is gained by your early morning study, and the effect of it is seen in everything else. But this is a test for us. When we are at it, what is the we can say definition of a successful author or a successful film director? When you tend to study a novel or a book, the success of the author is that he makes you get completely involved in the plot and the story. That you are really completely unaware of the time, unaware of the circumstance, and you are completely lost into that book. Then the author is successful actually. One of the great discourse, Upanyasaka says in the Kamba Ramayana, that is the Ramayana Tamil version, and Kambar is a very great poet. And which is the character that defines Kambar is the character of Kaikeyi, he says, and he gives this example only. Which is the character which, when portrayed by the author, makes you forget Ramayana, makes you forget the author, makes you forget everything, and you have all the anger towards Kaikeyi as to why she is doing like that. Then the author is being successful in conveying what he is wanting to convey. You are drawn into it. That is the success of the author, writer. Similarly, in a movie, whenever that hero-heroine plot story that is happening, and the director is able to get you into that screen, into that movie plot, then he is a successful director. When we were growing up, obviously, in the 80s, 90s, even now maybe some movies come, we talk about Maniratnam being a great director. The phase comes when we analyze this and that, and we tend to go beyond the mere entertainment, and we analyze the cinematography and dialogues, and that phase comes, and all of us go through this phase also when we are appreciative of Maniratnam movie, this, that. But afterwards, when we understood from this knowledge, think about it. When you talk about a movie as a Kamala Hassan movie or a Rajnikant movie or Amitabh Bachchan movie, that's a different thing to talk about. But when you talk about a movie as a Sridhar movie or a Maniratnam movie or a Karan Johar movie or something like that, then the director is not behind the screen, the director is on the screen. You are not watching the plot, you are not the mind is not mind is involved in the maker of the movie, the director. So that means the director is visible. The successful director is invisible actually. The successful director is one who is behind the screen and makes you enter the movie as it is. Like that. So a successful person, a successful art, a successful action is to make the audience involved. And when you are going through that experience as a onlooker, as an audience, it is nothing wrong as you go through that experience. But then, where does objectivity come here? Objectivity is to finally remember at the back of the mind that I have nothing to do with this movie, I am apart from this movie. This thought is there embedded in the back of your mind, and therefore in and through the tragedies and comedies that you go through the movie also, you are out of it and you are apart from it is a parallel thing. This is called as objectivity. So, our emotions tend to get involved and we are able to step a little back and you are able to watch it as a witness even as you are in it. That is called as disinterested interest. Swamiji uses this term, disinterested interest, a dispassionate passion. Because when we talk about being an onlooker, being a witness, being all these terms may give a notion that you are like a statue, that you are emotionless, that you have no passion at all, which is not actually the right understanding of Vedanta, which is not the right understanding of objectivity also. This is where the difference between the term, I am saying depth of the term Sakshi comes in. Sakshi and witness are same, they can be used interchangeably also, but when we go into the term Sakshi, there is a deeper understanding. Witness is just an onlooker who is not participative in it, who has no connection in it. That is a witness. Witness is somebody who is merely watching. So we have given this example recently. I mean, not in this class, but in the Upanishad class it came that a person from his terrace watching a marriage procession with all its fun and frolic and gaiety and the dance and everything associated with it is a witness. He is unconnected with that family and that marriage, he is just watching it. And few minutes later a funeral procession goes and there is a lot of crying and there is a lot of sadness. He is a witness to both. He is not connected, he is just a witness. But early in the morning, the sun above, sun above is watching both the processions. And you can say that the sun is a Sakshi. Why is the sun called as a Sakshi? Because sun is also a disinterested witness. It does not get involved in the happiness of the marriage procession. It does not get involved in the sadness of the funeral procession. But both these processions would not have been possible without the sun. That is the point. It activates both. It is instrumental for both to happen. So like that, you must be in it and out of it. In the chapter Renunciation in Vedanta Treatise, Swamiji uses the term which comes in a Tamil literature called Tungamal Tungi. Tungamal Tungi means asleep without sleeping. Tungamal Tungi, asleep without sleeping. This is the pose of Lord Shiva with his half eyes open. Fully open means he is completely involved in the world. Fully closed means you are totally shut off from the world. So shut off is tamas and fully open is rajas. You have half eyes closed means you are in it and out of it. It is very, very difficult even to explain or to understand, much difficult to practice, but this is, as we practice along, it will come as such. That is actually disinterested witness, a disinterested interest. So you are in it and out of it. Now, where and how do we start this practice? The mind tends to get involved in any remote experience. And the involvement is there when my factor is there. When anything is there with my factor, there is an involvement. Somewhere the connection, you are interested in it, you are part of it, or anything. So, my relations, my art, my work, my factory, my son, my wife, various things are there. In some connection, when there is a my in it, there will be involvement. And what is interesting to note amongst various experiences and various types of experiences that we have is the mind tends to get involved in some unconnected experiences also. That means that is the level of our mind. Our intellect is not at all developed and we tend to get involved in anything and everything which is totally unconnected and we get affected by it. Suppose if there is a match between West Indies and Australia and you are interested in cricket, you watch that. How much of involvement that the mind can have in it? What is the connection? At least when you say India match, that is understandable. India, my country, my team, okay, there is some support and involvement is, I am not saying it's justified, but it's understandable. But there will be some connection, whether you like it or not, you will tend to take sides and you will not watch the match, even if, suppose you may support West Indies for whatever reason. West Indies could be like like how universally Brazil is adored as a football nation. West Indies was the time when everybody grew up and they saw the great Clive Lloyd and his team, and from that time when you have a passion towards it, you could have developed a passion for West Indies, which is fine. So when India match is not involved, you tend to support West Indies. Or it could be India-Australia rivalry is too much and you want Australia to lose because Australia is India's enemy. Something like that, some connection is there. And you tend to get involved in Australia-West Indies match. Suppose if there is a meeting tomorrow also, tonight throughout you are hearing the commentary like that. That's where your passion takes over completely. It is not enough that you know the score, you know the ball by ball commentary and everything there it is. Okay, that is also fine. but then we tend to get affected by the result of the match. We tend to get affected by the other aspects that are happening in the match, and that is a very, very sad state, because there's no connection at all, and we tend to get involved there. So actually our objectivity should start from there. I have nothing to do with this match actually. But then when it comes to India match, yes, there's a little more involvement. But again, think about it, it's just a match. People who are playing there, they have their connection with the match in various forms. It could be they are playing for the country, they are playing for the team, or they are playing for their sponsorship, they are playing for their name, fame, so many things that the players may be involved in the match. That is up to them. Why are you getting involved? Not only that, even in this IPL, it could be a team that is Chennai Super King or a Royal Challengers Bangalore or Mumbai Indians. Based on your affinity, you have that connection. There is emotional connection there. And in this process, what do we say? Even if, let's say, if Virat Kohli is in Bangalore and I support Chennai, means I want Kohli to lose. See, my liking of Kohli is because he's part of Indian team and he's an Indian captain. But when it comes to a closer connection like this, my involvement becomes even more. Like that it becomes. So then, when it comes to these matches, when it comes to movies, when it comes to serials, TV serials, our involvement is much more. See, there are fights with reference to, it's there, definitely North India also, but South India it's much more this fan following for the movie stars, because they are demigods. They become, the heroes tend to become even chief ministers later on, particularly in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. It is much more there. So you can talk anything about my father and mother also, but you cannot talk about Rajinikanth or Kamal Haasan. There are factional fights like that. So it is at any stage. It could be in the previous generation, Shivaji Ganeshan or MGR. It could be some other people now, Shah Rukh Khan and Amir Khan, or Ajit and Vijay, or whatever it is. That involvement in that movie. So if you see their comments on the Twitter and Facebook as to how they abuse each other, it is because of their involvement in that personality. And what has that connection got with you? Is he going to give part of his earnings to you? You may tend to put his flags and sing his pens, but nothing is going to come to you in any way. There's no connection, but the mind tends to get involved. That is where we have invested our emotions. And the side effect of this involvement is that you don't understand, particularly with reference to TV serials and other things. The moment you get involved, you don't understand that you are investing so much of emotions in it. And the intensity of the emotions is, if it is so much, what happens is that you tend to invite those incidences in your life. That's very, very sad, but that's what is the truth. And most of the TV serials are portraying all sorts of negativity. So how much you tend to get involved with that negative character and the plots and subplots and all the things that are associated with it, which are unconnected to our real culture or anything. And to run the serial for years together, they have to give new plots. And every new plot has to bring in a new villain and a new way of torturing and a new way of negativity. All these things you are investing your emotions on. Unnecessarily, you are inviting all those things in your life. It is quite unnecessary actually. That is why objectivity is very important. Watch the serial and you just close the TV and go. It doesn't happen like that. How much that people, whether even as they know that it's a waste of time and it is not adding to their value, once you get involved in it, it is going to draw into it. Helplessly we function after that. Movies, TV serials. So we need to start our objectivity from these things first, so that are very, very external to us. As I said, from a cricket match which is unconnected to a TV serial or whatever, or those things we need to distance ourselves if you want to view it as an experience, and you just shut off after the experience. And then comes, as I said, involvement in relationships with reference to our work relationships. And even before that, when it comes to relationship with animals, we somewhat tend to maintain this objectivity Of course, there is a lot of involvement when it is my pet. A cow or bull is like my family member. All that is understandable. But beyond that, in terms of how you watch the animals and how you, why? Because they are at a far off circle than in your general emotional connection. So farther they are, the involvement is less in the circles. So that is where we talked about this Australia-West Indies match must be in the farthest circle. You cannot tend to have any connection there in terms of involvement. Like that I am saying. So not only that, when it comes to animals, you are able to relate to them in the most proper way because of your objectivity only. Think about it. If we have time, we will cover it. Why is it that you are able to properly relate to animals, but when it comes to human beings, we are not able to relate properly? When it comes to relationship, again start with the very external circle. It could be your client or customer in the office, your boss or subordinate in the office. We tend to get involved because of their character, their conduct, and of course in the office you need to get things done and you need to submit reports, all that apart. You are carrying that character as a part of you and you are getting affected by other people's behavior. And what is the relationship with these people? Few hours in a day or something like that, or a client or a customer maybe once in a week or something like that. Even then our mind tends to get involved. So we need to understand this at that circle level. And then comes a closer circle, which could be your extended relationships and friends, where our involvement is much more, definitely. There we tend to lose. So if we carefully analyze, this involvement is a product of shrinkage of time and space. If there's a problem that is happening in America and Mexico, and it's a big problem, terrorist attack or something happened in France now, you are getting involved in it, and it's understandable that it's important news and you are watching that and everything. But if there is a minor accident that is happening in front of your house, you will leave all that great terrorist attack where so many people are killed, and go down and see what has happened, the accident, a scooter and a car has dashed or something like that, because it is closer to you. The space has shrunk. And when it is in time also, when it is closer to you, you get involved. Like that it is. Time and space, when it shrinks, the involvement gets bigger and bigger. So in that circle comes next the friends and relatives, where our involvement is much more. When it comes to our own family, which is my wife, my husband, my child and other thing, it is more and more involvement is there. And then comes your own self. My own self, I just cannot, because I don't tend to be, I cannot be objective. First of all, I need to segregate myself from my mind with my intellect to view it even objectively. That is not possible at all. So, if we analyze as to why this happens, what is the cause of this involvement? It is because we want the world to fit into our mental pattern. This is where the mind is wrong with its expectations. However right you may be also, you have no right to expect others to behave in a way that you think is right. We talked about animals, this is where the answer comes. In a zoo, if you go, you will be able to relate to a tiger properly, and a deer or a rabbit. If you have a chance, you will go near the rabbit or a deer and feed the grass, but you cannot afford to go near a cobra or a tiger. But the best part is that you like both tiger, cobra, deer and zebra and deer, everything, rabbit, everything. But you know how to relate to them, even as you admire all of them. Why? Because when it comes to expression of the nature, what is inside is getting expressed outside naturally for these animals. A tiger is ferocious inside and ferocious outside. A cobra is like that. Even if a fox, when you say it is cunning, it is the nature of the fox, and collectively all fox are like that. All cow Cows are meek and mild. So you can relate with the cow. You can go and pat a cow. So since you know how the animals behave and how their character is, you are able to relate to them properly. But when it comes to humans, what happens is that all of us look alike with 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, a mouth, and all the features that are there. But the internal character could be wide apart. There could be zebras and cobras even amongst humans, tigers and zebras even amongst humans. But if the intellect is not developed to assess, we tend to get involved based on our mental and emotional relationship there. Therefore, what is the product of that is that we expect the other person to behave in a way which we think is right, and that is where the problem comes. See, even when West Indies and Australia are playing, let us say in that match I said, Australia is a stronger team, let's assume West Indies is a weak team, and we know it. Intellectually, if you think for a moment, you may understand it. But the mind expects West Indies to win. The mind expects Australia to lose. The mind expects the West Indies batsman to play artfully and tactfully when there is a powerful bowling attack or something. So it is our wrong expectation based on our wrong assessment. That is the problem. So in terms of personal relationship, whether it is a boss, whether it is a subordinate, we do not accept their nature as it is. We expect them to behave in a way which we think is right. Now the question may arise as to, should we not then attempt to change if somebody is doing something wrong and it's blatantly a very unethical or a wrong practice, should we not attempt to correct them? And what happens if my own son or daughter behave like that? Is it not my duty to sort of correct that practice? The answer is yes. You need to correct it. Vedanta does not say passively accept whatever is being done and you don't put in any effort to correct the situation, or not like that. You need to do. But at any point of time, you need to accept that person as he is, as it is. Accept the situation as it is. Only when you do this first, can your mind be first calm. Only when the mind is calm can the intellect think. Only when the intellect thinks properly can you even take corrective measures for the situation. So, even if you want to correct the situation, the key is to practice objectivity. But how can my son do like this? That's where it comes. So that my connection, when it is strong there, my wife, my son, my student, or there the tendency to lose that objectivity is much faster. When it comes to neighbor's tragedy, you do feel sad, but when it comes to your own tragedy, that's what I am saying. It is the shrinkage of space and time where the mind tends to lose itself. So, a practical way, even with the present level of intellect, when I say we don't need a giant intellect for this, is to assess the person as he is or as she is. Assess the situation, monsoon or pollution or political climate or whatever it is. You don't need a giant intellect for that. Accept the city as it is, what you live. Accept your employee as it is. That is why I am saying don't practice sattva, rajas, tamas and objectivity while in the office. There sometimes you might even have to raise your voice and get the things done. But understand this is the type of person overall and who you are dealing with. So this has to come slowly by getting rooted in the knowledge and development of intellect. So when you are able to do this, you will be able to practice objectivity. So practicing objectivity or Sakshi Bhavana is both at the level of the practice and ultimately at the level of the state also. So practicing objectivity comes, we can say, at 3 stages. First is that we get affected by others' nature because our intellect is very low and we get involved, and affectation could last for a day or a week or depending upon our spiritual status, our evolution. Then with the knowledge, with the development of intellect, with getting, what is this knowledge ultimately saying? The knowledge is ultimately saying that you are not this body, mind, intellect, you are the self, right? That's the essential lesson of Vedanta. So connect this to involvement. Involvement, as I said, only comes when there is a my connection. So Vedanta is hammering this in our head again and again, that you are not that I that you think yourself to be. So you need to just live your life in this world just as a actor plays his role on the stage. That is probably the best example. Even as he goes through the tragedy of the Hamlet, or he goes through the tragedy of some other person, or goes through the motion of being a Rama or Lakshmana in the play, each and every day he puts on a show and he goes through the crying and laughing, and that is genuine as far as that Vesha is concerned, as far as that performance is concerned. But he knows for sure that he is not Lakshmana, Rama. He is sitting in a throne, and after the drama is over, he cannot order somebody come here and go there. He is not the king actually. He understands he is the actor, and one day he can be a beggar also. He knows he is not the beggar. So getting yourself rooted in your original personality is the key, and that is what is the ultimate knowledge that Vedanta says. So by gaining this knowledge slowly, you go to the next level where you cope with others' nature. This is where practicing comes. Even as, when things get heated up, at least you are aware now. You may withdraw yourself for a while and take a deep breath. All these things will help actually in the short while. But all this comes because of the understanding. Your understanding is improving now. And then it is very high level that you go to a stage where you admire the beauty of the other's nature. Just as you admire the poisonous nature of the cobra. Suppose I have decided to live with my wife, but she has her own plus and minus. And the point is, I also have. See, where it gets involved. In involvement, the point is that I am right and the other person is wrong. That's where that is the crux of all our problems. But the point is, as I am victim of my vasanas, other person is victim of her own vasanas, her own tendencies, which they have gathered over a period of time. So, with all her positivities, she is also having this quality of irritation, let us say. Then, having signed the contract, I have to adjust according to that. That is the key. So, in The Fall of Human Intellect and other books also, Swamiji gives that his own personal experience when he was in school in Chennai, that the teacher taught him that the beauty of the summer is its heat. The beauty of the winter is its cold. The beauty of the monsoon is that it should pour and pour and pour. So the beauty of the black man is his black skin and thick lips and the curly hair. The beauty of the white man is its white skin and the fair complexion. But a black man wants to be fair and a white man wants to be tanned, or like that it is. It is our stupid notion and involvement that we are not able to see the beauty as it is. All this is also understandable, but what is difficult to understand is how will I understand the beauty when my wife is irritated? That's very important. That's not possible. Or how will the wife say that when my husband is shouting hysterically, how do you want me to practice objectivity? We tend to lose everything there, and we do not know how long it will take for them to patch up also. That is the current situation, and that is where the practice comes. But believe me, a stage will come where obviously you will not want to say it aloud, but even as that person is going through that motion, you will admire that person for what he is or what she is. So when the wife is shouting, you see the beauty in the wife. And that is a very high stage, but at least imagine that there is a stage that is possible like that. So when you are able to understand and accept others as they are, a stage will come where you are able to see that. And then a stage comes where you are able to watch your own thoughts and emotions, where you are able to distance yourself. And then we understand that stage where Ramana Maharshi reached, or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa reached, where they are able to see even their body go through extreme pain, be it cancer, be it AIDS. They are just laughing it off. How is that possible? To that extent you can go is the claim of Vedanta. So that is the difference of being a Sakshi, that you can disassociate yourself, because all the involvement comes from the basic fact that you think that I am the body. But the highest objectivity comes that I am not the body while I am living in the body. That is called as the state of absolute Sakshi. So by practicing objectivity, you reach the state of objectivity. Atmanam Rajavat Sada, says Atmabodha. Same parallel thought comes in on his blindness. John Milton says, his state is kingly. Atmanam Rajavatsada. His state is kingly. 1,000 at his bidding post over land and ocean without rest. His state is kingly. His state means state of God, and that God is Atma. That Atma is the Sakshi within you, which is watching this body, mind and intellect go through all these motions. How do we get established in that? One of the most direct ways is to get your thought pegged on the feet of the Guru, nothing else. Because he is the picture of objectivity with flesh and bone you can see. If you are able to associate with objectivity, like a iron piece which is associated with the magnet, you will get it. That is why I think in, if I am not mistaken, Guru Ashtakam, which is I think attributed to Shankaracharya, after every verse, Ashtakam means 8 verses, at every verse he says, Tatakim, Tatakim. Tatakim means what of that? What of that? If your mind is not fixated in the feet of Guru, what of that? He gives a list. You have got the best wife, you have got the best son, you have got all the prosperity, you are the king. Tatakim, what of that? What of that if you cannot get your mind fixated in the feet of the Guru, he says. So when we say objectivity is to have that thought that I am the self, which is too high and too difficult for us, at least try this, that you get yourself fixated in that Guru and God are not different, but Guru is more practical and more near us in that sense. Because he forms the bridge between us and the God. He is also like us with features, but he is totally different, established somewhere. And the establishment of him, which is where his feet is standing, is nothing but the self. So if you are able to get fixated and just follow whatever he says, the chance of practicing objectivity is more. From a practical point of view, we said involvement is because we view everything close. Suppose if there is a book like this, if I keep it at a distance, then I can read. If I keep the book like this, there is no clarity at all. So for clarity, we need distance. And this distance temporarily can be created if you view yourself from the point of view of time, from the point of view of space. This is called as horizontal view and vertical view. Horizontal view is viewing yourself across the plane, space-wise. Suppose if you get fever for a day, how much involvement everybody should sit around me, massage me, give me all the tablet and this, because one day this has got fever and you make a big fuss out of it. Okay, take care of yourself, that's about all, not a big deal. But how do you practice it? Just immediately, that's what it is. When I am getting so involved because it is me, I got fever and the whole thought is centered around me. Just expand that thought with reference to space. How many people are there in Calcutta? 1 crore people, take an average. Even if you take 1%, it is 1 lakh. Okay, 0.1%, 10,000. 0.1% people, can they not get sick? Definitely they would. In some may be even more serious than you. You are 1 out of the 10,000. What is the big deal? Consider yourself 1 among the Indians. How many in India would have been sick today? 1 million people. You are 1 out of 1 million. What is the big deal? So therefore, immediately your ego shrinks into insignificance if you are able to have that horizontal view cutting across space. It is just an immediate view. That's all. Corona, this, that, lockdown, so much I suffer, this, that. Just think about others who are even earning their daily wage and how they are getting affected. Many have lost their jobs. Many are in so many things. No, it is me and myself. That is where my thought revolves around. Just open your eyes and see the people around you. Many more are suffering than you also. Thank God that He has put you in such a position. Immediately your attitude will change. Similarly, vertical view is viewing your life across time. If that one day sickness you view across time, what is the big deal? You got on an average, how many days you are sick in a year? 2 days? And you have lived 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, and in that 50 years, 2 days in a year, that's all. 2 days in a year means it is nothing. Relax and watch some TV. What's the big deal about it? So if you watch yourself across time in your own lifetime, immediately there is a relief. If you watch yourself across space horizontally, immediately the relief is there. And ultimately the mantra is, Bhagavad Gita says, each and everything that you get involved in the world has no pith or value or substance. Agama payino anityaha tam titikshasva bharata. Agama payino anityaha. They will come, they will go, they are impermanent. So the key for practicing objectivity at every experience, which maybe at a future date we will take, is a fabulous mantra that you always need to remember is, even this shall pass away. This is the truth of life. This is the fact of life. Starting from your own body, starting from everything that you possess, starting from everything to each and every object and creature and everything in the world, this law applies. Agama payino anityaha. They will come, they will go, they are impermanent. So if you have this mantra, even this shall pass away, objectivity is guaranteed. So the state of being a Sakshi is that ultimate state of self-realization, which is the self. There's no thought or anything like that. Last question answer session, I remember somebody had asked, that is a state. So therefore the self is the witness consciousness in you. But practicing objectivity is to develop the intellect and hold the mind in its place so that the subject is able to view itself different from the object. Even as you go through the experiences with all the depth in it, you are still out of it. That is the mantra for practicing objectivity. Thank you. Right. If there are any questions now, you can unmute and ask.
Yeah, Hariom Swamiji.
Yeah, Hariom.
This is Sarla.
Yes, Sarla.
So you are saying when the mind gets involved in the experience, it's involvement.
Correct.
So in the experience of drawing, the artist is the subject and the art is the object.
Right.
When the artist gets completely involved in his art, he produces a real work of art.
Right.
So in this, involvement is doing the trick.
Right. It's a good question. See, the thing is, it seems to be a contradiction, right? That we say that that you must not get involved as you are in the action also, but at the same time we say that the best of the action is produced, or the best of the result is produced when you are in it completely. So apparently the term used here can be involvement, in it, etc., but you have to understand the fundamental difference only. Let us analyze as to when also this person gets into the art, be it any work. Say suppose you are teaching your children, or I am taking a class, or somebody is doing a computer engineering work, or singer is singing or something like that. When is the chance for that person to get himself immersed in it? Rather, all the time, why? Suppose if we go by the appendages of action, there is a past desire, present ego and future fruit, all those things, and in a way this is what is generally getting us involved. So I am having these desires, I want to do it, this is there from the past, and I am actually saying that it is me who is doing it, and I am interested in the money that is coming out of it, the following that is coming out of it, therefore my tendency is to get involved. Now, when do I tend to be objective with reference to my relationship with action itself? It is when I understand that this needs to be done because it needs to be done. That's about all. There is no ifs and buts to it, there is no prefixes and suffixes to it. And this will come only when you are able to dedicate that action to a cause or a goal, at least some amount of understanding it is there. This can come even for a normal person who is not associated with Vedanta from time to time, when he is completely immersed in his Swadharma. And that is why when we talked about the Uparati quality in the 6 qualities, we say Swadharma Anushtanameva. So by Swadharma, what is happening is that which is within you is flowing by itself. So you are automatically becoming an instrument without even being you wanting to do it at that point of time, but this could be temporary as far as a normal person is concerned. But as far as a conscious practice is concerned, when you are able to dedicate it to a cause or something like that, that is when you are able to distance yourself from it. So when in that case, when you are able to get immersed in it, there is no kartrutva bhavana involved, and that is where the help of the self and other thing comes in. So that way, if you get immersed, it is okay. That is not called as involvement. Involvement is when with your ego that you are participating in it. That makes all the difference. So there is a subtle catch where your ego is getting involved, or you are just getting immersed, forgetting yourself. That is the catch.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
One more question. Yeah, so when we are talking about not being attached to the result of action,
Right.
to improve the action, you need to understand what is the result accruing from it. So how is that different from not being at all involved with the result of action?
This you are talking about is an analysis after the action. So suppose if a particular result has come, definitely with your intellect you can analyze not just the result of the action, you can analyze your past experiences also. Therefore, when intellect is involved in analysis, it is involved in two places. You learn from the past experiences, and based on the past experiences and data, you keep a future goal also. So it is not that future or past is not involved in the action, they are involved, but while doing the action, when this is fixed and while doing the action, the mind must be simply be there in the present action. While doing the action, when it tends to get excited about the fruit of action, that is what we call as involvement. When you are doing an analysis with reference to post-mortem with reference to action, that is not called as involvement.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.